Oh God! No! No, 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 no! No! No, stay away! Get away from me! No! Ah! Ah! What better way to start off this series than by talking about one of the most notorious object shows of all time, BFDI. This show started as a total drama action parody, which was a show on Cartoon Network for those that don't know, and slowly evolved into something much more. Now, every single episode of BFDI has more than 1 million views each, some even having as many as 44 million views. However, we can't just ignore what started it all. Something so atrocious it should never be mentioned in a positive manner. BFDI 1, Take the Plunge. This episode has amassed 44 million views somehow, and we are gonna take a look.
Yeah, I know. She was so surprised. Really? Oh, for sure.
Ugh, that music! After BFDI used this song in the first episode, every single other object show that ever existed used this song. I honestly think it sounds like a fart remixed into a song, amplified times 1,000,000. Also, the music blocks out the voice acting completely. It's like if I was just talking to you and all of a
sudden you nearly pulped me. Oh, it's not my fault. It's the stupid Blocky here. It's his fault.
The voice acting sounds like a bunch of people who just learned English are being forced to voice act against their will with a microphone from a thrift store that came out in 1994. This voice acting is the worst I've ever heard. I mean, oh my God, could they not find one person older than 3 years old with a decent microphone to voice act?
Woody, get up. There's a life out there to enjoy, so enjoy it.
If you haven't noticed, every single character has this annoying high-pitched voice that grates your ears every time they speak. Shut up! Just shut up! Shut up! I decided to check out BFDI Take the Plunge Part 2 because maybe they improved ever so slightly, and maybe, just maybe, they chose some better music options. This was not the case.
Aha! Ice Cube, come on down. You can be my ally. Thanks for picking me.
Anyway, I'm forced to give this awful episode a 2 out of 10. It's probably the worst thing I've ever seen. It's also sucked my soul out, so I have no emotions in my voice anymore. Anyway, I'm gonna go play Skyrim and eat chips, so bye. It's been so long since I've made a video. I'm dead inside. What, has it been 3 weeks now? Is that how I say thank you to my fans? No! You know what? I'm gonna make a worst of the worst episode. Today! Yeah! Alright, this should be easy. I just gotta find an object show that's bad. But not too bad. I don't want to shock my viewers. What's this? Wait a minute! No! Not this bad! I didn't ask for this! Wait, what? I didn't understand a thing that person just said. Did you get this voice actor from Fiverr? No, better yet, Craigslist, the free section? I mean, there's a line between bad and this goes even beyond that. They don't even go as far as to use the BFDI assets. Even Shape World used the BFDI assets. Is it really that hard to go to the Jack and Jaleefy website and download some assets? No, it isn't. It isn't very hard at all, actually. Was this show a joke? Is this whole thing a sick joke? I mean, nobody could have thought this looked good. Nobody sat down, looked at this awful show, and said, yeah, this is quality enough, just upload it. And Mega Animazing, the creator of the show, can't even use the excuse of being young for when this came out, because he was 17 when he made this episode, which isn't that old, but you'd have to be pretty young to make a mistake this bad. And also, who sits around watching this? I don't care how young you are. Who is actually invested in this? I want to meet all 45,502 people who actually watched this video and thought it was good. I'd tell you the plot, but I don't even know. It's so badly voice acted and animated, I can't even tell what's going on. I'd like to say insightful things, but I can't because there's nothing insightful here. It's so bad. They aren't even trying. The grass is so bad. What I meant by them not using BFDI assets, I wasn't talking about the arms. Just look at the grass. The grass should tell you alone that this is a terrible show, that you should stay very far. Like, what even is that? What is with his legs? Are those fingers? What? No! You could use the argument that it's gotten better with age, but that's not even true. Yes, visually it's improved these days, but voice acting wise, it's just as bad, if not worse. And the writing is honestly even lazier than before. Not even that, but it hasn't even come out yet. The last update for Inanimate Fight Out was over 6 months ago. Anyway, that's all I can handle today. I hope I didn't give you all nightmares with how bad the show is. Where do I start with something like this? Something so atrocious, no words can sum up how terrible it is. Let's just start with the animation. I'm not exactly sure what he used to create the assets, but whatever it is he used, it needs to be banned. I mean, I've seen bad animation in a show before, but this is just appalling. I have no idea what 90% of this stuff is. There's not trying, and then there's battle for I'll sleep. The legs and arms move so awkwardly. How do you manage to mess up walking in an object show? Okay, I'm not really saying anything insightful about the mistakes made on this show, but that's because there's nothing insightful to say. Rather than a few mistakes being present in this show, the entire show is a mistake. Due to the atrocious voice acting, which I'll get into in a minute, I don't actually understand anything that's being said, so it's kind of hard to review the plot. However, the creator of the show was so lazy, he decided to just release the script of an episode on DeviantArt and tried to pass it off as an episode, which means we technically can review the plot. Let's dive into the Hollywood blockbuster known as Battle for I'll Sleep and just read how interesting and intense I'm sure it is. Brownie is lying down. She yawns. Then sudden loud music startles her. What have you been doing? It's pretty boring and awful. To sum it up, it's 90% just object show cliches mixed with even worse writing than Object Planet and 10% characters falling asleep. Yes, falling asleep! This show isn't funny at all. Not even in a so bad it's good way, it's just annoying. In fact, the most annoying aspect of the show is the voice acting. The voice acting of the show sets an all-time low for object shows. For any show, actually. 90% of the characters are voiced by the same person, who happens to be the creator of the show, Nicholas McConnell. He doesn't even try to hide this. The only thing he does to make his voice sound different is pitch it up or down. Not in Audacity, but with his real voice.
I like the elimination theme.
Thanks, camera. Anyways, you all know how eliminations work, right?
Uh-huh, sure.
The voice acting was edited horribly, as every couple of seconds the microphones pop, making an annoying sound that sounds like your headphones exploding. How enjoyable. So, the animation is bad, the assets are bad, the scripts are all bad, and the voice acting sets a world record for world's worst voice acting. How could the show get any worse? The creator himself, the creator of the show, Nicholas McConnell, is a whiny baby who has fits in his comments section, and at one point, literally had in his description a rule that said no criticism allowed. I would let this go if it was just the stuff from years ago, but he still responds to comments rudely to this very day, even if they aren't rude comments to begin with. Look, here's an example. Hey, you know you copied a scene from BFDI in one of this episode's scenes?
Are you out of your mind? To begin with, this is an old episode. Look at the release date, and look at the beginning of the description. How can I possibly not know it?
Overall, this show and its creator are both just... Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, and let's get to 1,000 subscribers. We're only like 285 off. And I know this episode was really short, or this review anyway, and it wasn't a worst of the worst episode because it's a special. And I know I really didn't say anything insightful about the show, but like I said earlier, there's literally nothing insightful about this show to say. If it was a better show that had some flaws, yeah, I'd probably review it, but this was just awful. It's been on my plate for a long time to review, and I finally found the opportunity. Anyway, that's all. I'm just gonna go. This list is very overdue. I've been planning it for a while, but never got around to it because I'm, busy with stuff that isn't my PS4. Anyway, object shows are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes people think they're good, and sometimes, and well, most of the time, not. Let's just start the list, and oh, one last thing before we start. I consider an object show to be a show that uses object show assets, and one that is created by somebody in the object show community. Just so you know, because some of these on the list may not be, exact object shows, but they're close enough. Number 10. Object Oppose. This is high up on the list, mainly because I found it unintentionally hilarious. It was so bad and so ridiculous, I just couldn't stand to put it lower on the list. I mean, the host is a creepy, out-of-place Sims character. She's supposed to look like an anime character, but looks more like Jigsaw. That's the only thing that really stands out about Object Oppose, and is really the only reason it's even on this list. Other than the creepy host, it's just a show full of terrible animation and lackluster writing, with some memorably terrible music. Number 9. Battle for Object Destination. I'll give this show credit where credit is due. The animation is very well done, and the voice acting for some of the characters is pretty extraordinary. Except for me, I was pretty awful in BFOD. I voiced Dollar in BFOD 3, and I sounded like I was recording a heavy metal album because of how much I was screaming. Color dye! Now, BFOD suffers from horrible writing that has more holes in it than Swiss cheese, honestly. Every line of dialogue feels extremely forced, and the entire show is honestly cringeworthy to watch. The visuals are very well done, though, and really impressed me sometimes. Other than that, nothing too special about this show. It's number 9 for a reason, okay? There's so much worse out there. Number 8. Super Object Battle 2. The name alone makes you want to cringe, or at least it made me want to. The animation is very lackluster. The visuals include poorly drawn assets that look like they were created in 15 seconds, BFDI grass, and for some reason, very ugly white outlines on 50% of the characters. The dialogue, just like Battle for Object Destination, is heavily forced with little to no actual substance. It's just really boring to watch, and I really don't recommend it. His newer show, Object Lockdown, is way better, and I recommend you watch that instead, because compared to this, it's just, ugh. And not just that, the creator, the Wugglejack, actually thinks Super Object Battle 2 is terrible himself, so I'm not the only one, obviously. Number 7. Becky Bucket. Yeah, that's right, Becky Bucket is on the list. The show I created with Alchemist Area. The show me and Area both put blood, sweat, and tears into. Why is it on the list? Well, let me tell ya. First of all, it has some awful writing. As an object terror, probably has better writing. The whole thing just feels forced and terrible. I'm not even sure why I allowed the script I wrote to go any further than being a script. The musical segment I included didn't help either. The show is only number 7 because of Alchemist Area, who provided amazing visuals that got Becky Bucket where it was at the time. Becky Bucket was like the watchdogs of the community. It was extremely overhyped, and in the end, all it was a boring 2-minute pilot with absolutely no substance. Number 6. Battle for Isle Sleep. I know I already tore this show to bits a month ago in my 6th Worst of the Worst installment. However, I feel like that isn't enough for what this show deserves. How this show managed to get to episode 5 without being booted off the internet is beyond me. Why is such laziness rewarded? 90% of the characters are voiced by the same person with their terrible microphone. I have never seen that much laziness before. The assets are created in Windows Paint, and the plot makes no sense. What more do I even need to say? If you guys want more information about this show, just click the link in the description. I have the review I made about it, so you can just see how awful it is yourself. And I only put it on this list to remind you that it exists. You're welcome. Number 5. In Animations by Taco Turtle Animations. Now, this is number 5 mainly because of how overrated this show is. Some people have sworn to me that this is actually a really good show, to which I say no before crying, because it sucks. First of all, the dialogue sounds like it was written by a 2-year-old and voice acted by an 8-year-old. It uses BFDI grass, PNGs as assets, and has an incredibly boring plot where nothing interesting happens at all. Also, it uses royalty-free cliché object show music. Now, if this show wasn't well known, I wouldn't have included it, as it would have just been like any other unknown show. But because it's just so cliche and has 200,000 views, I'm including it. Who actually thought this was a good idea? Number 4. Object Terror. This show tries way too hard to be funny. Mix that with awful animation and extremely lackluster writing, and you have yourself a terrible show. This show throws an extremely unfunny joke at your face every nanosecond, to the point of absurdity. I'm not gonna say much about this one though, as I've already reviewed it in full. Just know that Object Terror is not worth your time at all, but the review I made about it is. Number 3. Starfield. I know this isn't exactly an object show, but I'm counting it as one because it uses object show assets for the eyes and mouths, and was also created by somebody in the object show community. Starfield is, in many ways, worse than Object Terror. See, with Object Terror, they at least are making jokes. Yes, the jokes are horrible, non sequitur, just awful, but nonetheless, they're jokes. But you see, with Starfield, they try to pass off somebody getting tackled as a joke, with no comedic value whatsoever. They also try to pass off somebody crying because they insulted them as a joke. There's no joke there. There's not even a first grader would find that even remotely funny. This show did get remade in April of 2016, but the thing is, he didn't take the opportunity to remake the script. Every joke is the same, and the almost non-existent plot is still there. All he did was make the visuals nicer and add a few words to the script. The show has good animation though, so it's not number 1 on the list, but just know if the animation wasn't so nice, it would definitely be number 1. Number 2. Brawl for Object Palace. This show is number 2 because of how much it personally bothers me. See, laziness in an object show is a giant pet peeve of mine, along with microphones that have loud and annoying feedback errors. This show has both of those things. For one, this show is lazy. It's poorly animated and the lip sync in some parts doesn't even exist. It's just a smile. How lazy is that? Oh, and the awful microphones bother me so much. They buzz every 3 seconds. It sounds like an electric shock is going into my ear every second. It never stops, and the characters have annoying voices on top of that, so it's like listening to punishment. Are you punishing yourself? You want to punish yourself? Watch Brawl for Object Palace. Number 1. The Tale of El Nudello. This show is quite possibly the most annoying show ever made in the world. It's only 1 episode, and yet it has managed to annoy me this bad. It's about this horrifying creature mumbling nonsense to people, and unsurprisingly, the people find it annoying. That's it. That's the entire plot. The voices are so grating to listen to, and the nonsensical mumbling that's supposed to be funny is the most annoying thing on the planet. The visuals are bad, the dialogue is horrifying, and the plot is nonsensical. I advise you to never watch this atrocious failure, and if you've had the misfortune of watching it, I recommend serious therapy. Now, I just want to start off by saying the Object Show movie is just long enough to be a feature film, as it breaks the 40-minute mark. Therefore, I'll be reviewing this as a movie, not as a best of the best episode. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's actually start talking about the movie. So since this is a movie and not a show with a large span of episodes, I'm not going to be spoiling anything with the plot, so I'm just going to tell you some light details. The Object Show movie is about a door who tries to host an object show. The prize is all the money in the world. To win the prize, though, you must first find the prize, which is hidden in a random place on Earth. There are Easter eggs planted around random parts of the world, and each Easter egg is a clue that brings you one step closer to finding the prize. However, Dor gets kidnapped by an agency who believes that every object show should be the same, and is put in a cell with other hosts from various popular object shows, and together they break out. What happens next is unknown, and I'm actually not going to explain the plot further, as that would be a gigantic spoiler. Now, the plot is pretty entertaining to say the least, and you'll definitely be looking forward to what happens next. However, part 2 does end on a cliffhanger, which is kind of annoying, but it sets the tone for the next movie, which I can't tell you because spoilers and stuff. The characters are a mix between completely unlikable with no traits that are good whatsoever, and extremely lovable with a personality that you want to see more of. Corn on the Cob is personally my favorite character. He's a troll who's extremely sarcastic and at the same time a psychopath and will kill you. Now, I give the plot a 7 out of 10. It's fairly enjoyable if you like object shows. Even if you've never seen an object show before, it's still pretty enjoyable. The next thing I want to talk about is the animation. The animation on part 1 of the object show movie kinda sucks for the first 10 minutes, but after that mark, it soon becomes apparent that the animators got way better at animating because things start to look so much better. And by part 2, it looks incredible. Incredibly complex animations are in this movie, such as shotguns shooting, 3D cities, fire, first-person fighting, and more. It's very well done, and I can definitely see why the movie took so long to release. There is the occasional mistake during animation, such as an arm flipping unnaturally. Also, some of the 3D models look atrocious, but this is honestly to be expected with such a project, as it's got a lot of animation in it. Obviously, mistakes are bound to happen. I give the animation an 8 out of 10. Now, the voice acting is kind of bad. Some voice actors are okay, such as the voice actor for Corn on the Cob, Door, Chicken Leg, etc., but some of the voice actors are just awful, such as Kyle Ford, the Weird Cat, and more. Also, some of the voice actors seem to go through puberty as the movie goes on for some reason, which is very noticeable. It really unimmerses you from the movie. I'll go easy on it though because a project of this size is bound to have issues, like I said before. There also is no background music for a large chunk of the movie, which makes things feel really awkward, and you can hear background white noise from the microphones the voice actors use, which kinda sucks. Other than that, I have nothing else to say about the voice acting, other than it's meh. I give the voice acting a 5 out of 10. Now, the worst part of the movie, in my opinion, is its soundtrack. It's pretty awful. It's 90% cheesy, royalty-free techno. There's also a scene with Skrillex playing, and even one scene where a Kesha instrumental is playing. That's disgusting. It also doesn't really fit the tone of the film very well, in my opinion. I give the soundtrack a 2 out of 10. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the originality of this movie. Honestly, this movie's pretty original, with interesting plot devices that make sense and work very well, and a very good storyline with a great sense of progression. The host is original, the idea is originally... I can't even talk. I just love the originality of this film. The people behind it obviously put a lot of thought and work into everything that happened in this film. I give the originality a 10 out of 10. Overall, the Object Show movie is pretty good. If you have 40 minutes to kill, I recommend you go watch this. It's definitely worth your time. I give the film a score of 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10! I can't talk. Go check it out. Links in the description. I'm gonna tone down the screaming a little bit in this episode. I kinda sound like a death metal album lately. What I should be doing! AngryPaperPlateMan! No, stay away! Stay away from me! No! No! Just shut up! Shut up! Ugh! I think you guys see my point. It's kind of annoying after a while. I think I'm even more annoyed with it than you guys probably are. It also gets kind of annoying when I'm trying to show a friend or something my videos and all they see is... Anyway, on with the review. Object Terror is a terrible show made by a really not very nice person. Let's just say that. Anyway, here's the logo for the show. I don't know if you've laughed yet, but when I first saw this, I thought it was a joke. But no, it's actually the logo. He uses it like he's proud of it or something. He even put it in the trailer of his movie. At first, I was just gonna ignore this because, like, there's a lot more deserving shows out there. However, like a week ago, he uploaded the reboot, so I decided to review it. So let's just get into the review. It's not positive. I mean, I could just sum up the show in 3 seconds and save you guys a lot of pain. I'm annoying. I'm really annoying. I'm annoying and unlikable. But no, I actually have to put time and effort into something, so let's actually get into the review. So first of all, Object Terror has horrible voice acting. I mean, I don't even need to show you guys it. It's just a bunch of prepubescent children saying a bunch of stuff in terrible microphones. I mean, some of them have okay voice acting skills, but some of them are just Awful.
I am not your baby, Carpet.
If you thought that was bad, why don't you watch the rest of this episode yourself? I'm just kidding, I don't wish that on anybody. I mean, you have no idea how much money I would pay for that voice actor to never voice act again. I mean, I would tell you the plot, but I don't know what it is. Everyone mumbles too much, and honestly, I can't hear over their terrible microphones.
Hey, Arch, anyways, so what will we do?
Did you understand what he just said? Because, like, I didn't. That's kind of everyone's opinion here. You can't really tell what's going on. I mean, some of the voice actors have okay microphones, so you can kind of know what's going on, but the plot is so paper thin it makes absolutely no sense. It's kind of like a 5-year-old child if you gave him a crayon and told him to write a story. This is probably what they'd come out with. I give the plot like a 1 out of 10. It doesn't even deserve an edit, okay? Just look at my face bobbing back and forth. That's a 1 out of 10.
Well, we will show him this picture of a spooky minion.
I mean, the animation isn't that bad. I've seen a lot worse, but it's nothing special. I mean, it does make up for the awful voice acting, but it doesn't really piece anything together. It's like watching poop, right? But the poop has some gold shavings on it. It's still poop, but it has gold shavings on it. I give the animation like a 5 out of 10. Just imagine a really mediocre object show. I don't even really need to show you that many examples. So what actually makes Object Terror so bad? Is it the terrible voice acting, the animation, or the non-existent plot? Truthfully, it's none of those things. It's actually the fact that you have to force yourself to watch the show through to the end. When you watch TV, it should be something you enjoy and want to watch all the way through. However, with this, you're cringing and forcing yourself with all your might to get through 1 minute without ripping your headphones in half. That, my friend, is why Object Terror is horrible. Object Terror gets a 2 out of 10. It's a boring, lifeless husk of a show that should really invest in some good microphones. Johnny Test is The episode I'm reviewing today is called Johnny Rich. Why this episode? Well, because it doesn't matter what episode of Johnny Test I review, because they all follow the same terrible formula and are pretty much the same. If you've seen one episode of this show, you've literally seen them all. The episode starts off with Johnny going to a comic book store. He sees a comic book he really wants, but it's $10,000. About Johnny Test are the whip noises. Every little arm movement has a whip noise. A few YouTubers have actually counted them. In one episode, over 190 whip cracks were evident. Just listen to how many are in a single sentence.
For the next 6 months, there's gotta be something you can do. You're geniuses!
Johnny beats him, and suddenly everybody's tired of being rich. The end. Honestly, I wasn't surprised at how bad this episode was, because I expected it. The creator of this show also created Big Time Rush, a Nickelodeon show about a boy band, and Super Noobs, one of the worst shows ever made in my opinion. I mean, this guy creates a lot of bad shows, that's not even all of them. He has shows like The Moxie Show, which looked like it was animated with, I don't even know what, it didn't look right, it looked like Food Fight. Remember Food Fight? Yeah, Food Fight. I give Johnny Rich an unironic 0 out of 10. I feel like whoever writes this show writes it in 15 minutes because he promised a friend that he would, and he doesn't want to hurt their feelings. Also, in the description, I linked to the Google form to send me show requests if you wish. There's a lot of suggestions in there that I'll sort through eventually, but if you have an idea for a show for me to review, send it there. I will look at it. Battle for Object Destination is a perfect example of graphics don't make the game. In this case, the animation instead of graphics, and object show instead of game. Battle for Object Destination has very well done animation. Well, sometimes anyway. And the backgrounds of Battle for Object Destination are incredible as well. However, while the animation is incredible, the voice acting, the script, and the plot, all of those things are heavily lacking. There are only 3 episodes of BFOD, however, they all share the same issues, so I'll review them as one big episode, and go through a list of the problems reoccurring in each one. The first issue I have with BFOD are some of the voice actors. The voice actor for Candle, known as Real World Animations, is a horrible voice actor that actually is a pretty large part of the series. His microphone is terrible, his voice acting is unemotional, and his character is extremely unlikable. He just comes off as depressed and moody. The rest of the people I'm about to list have the same exact issues. Sandpaper, played by Rex Dark Hunter. Mousepad, played by Mr. BK, and lastly, Button, played by Whoop-Doo-Crafter. The rest of the voice actors are subpar, and at least have a slight amount of emotion in their acting. Now let's talk about the script, if you can really call it that. The interactions between characters feel so forced and awkward, as if the only purpose for them talking is to move the plot forward. There's very little character development or a display of personality, and the creator of this show seems to think that a character's voice and appearance defines who they are, which isn't actually true at all. It's what they say and how they interact with others that defines who they are. All of the characters in the show are lifeless and only do what the plot demands they do, rather than having a personality. That's called bad writing. I'm adding a new segment to this series. It's called the Originality Factor, where I'll see how original an object show is being and rate it out of 5. 5 out of 5 means it's extremely original, 4 out of 5 means it's original, 3 out of 5 means it's kind of original, 2 out of 5 means it's not very original, and 1 out of 5 means it's extremely unoriginal. Now that we got that out of the way, let's figure out how original BFOD is. The title itself has battle in it, which is extremely cliche, and the host is a flip phone, which is extremely cliche as well, as most object shows are iPhones, phones, iPads, etc. Seeing as those are the only 2 strikes when it comes to originality, BFOD gets a 3 out of 5 on the originality factor. Also, I want to talk about the quote-unquote humor of the show. This show tries way too hard to get you to laugh, and instead of it being funny, it just comes off as awkward and not funny at all. The jokes go from dead memes to humor only a 2-year-old would even find remotely funny. Also, BFOD kinda tries a bit hard to seem serious and sophisticated, like when Candle comes out as homosexual to Sandpaper. Now, this actually wouldn't be a problem if it was on a show that was aimed at adults or teenagers. This show is actually aimed at children, and there's usually no adult situations such as this in the show, so it just kinda comes off as trying hard to be serious. Also, there's a horribly forced conflict in BFOD Episode 2 that tries to make the show seem more serious. This conflict is when Key is angry at Color Dye and finally speaks her mind to him. Not only is unfitting Undertale music blaring in the background, the vocal transactions between the two are downright cringe-inducing, extremely forced, and just unnecessary. Also, there's one giant plot hole in Episode 3. Well, it's not really a plot hole, it just doesn't make any sense. When Candle was about to push Gummy off of that skyscraper, he was actually considering ending Gummy's life just so he could have a better chance of winning the amusement park. He acts like he's a good person for not doing it in the end, but he should have never even considered it. He would have lost anyway, as it would have only gained him 1 point. Overall, I think if BFOD had better writing, more character development, and better voice actors, it would be a show worthy of an 8 or 9 out of 10. But in its current state, I'm forced to give it a 5 out of 10. It's extremely mediocre, and I don't recommend it. Anyway, thank you all for watching this. This took a lot of work, and I'm really happy I finally reviewed the show. It's something that's been on my mind for a while.